All right, all right. Welcome everyone to the first Sunday match of quarterfinals of 4WC World Cup 2026. We got a really important one on our hands today, considering it's Seed 4 versus Seed 5. So we're expecting a very much heated rivalry between the two. South Korea versus China is the name of it. My name is Philoxen, and I am also joined by Felicia.
Hello, Philoxen. How are you doing? How are you feeling about this match? It is, again, as you did mention, Seed 4 versus Seed 5. And again, at least for me, these are such very close contested teams. And I really am expecting quite the spectacle today in between these two teams.
Yeah, indeed, same here. Considering, well, both teams had a bit of a different background, I want to say, considering the round of 16 match. They skipped groups. Then China beat Ukraine 6-1, and South Korea actually showed some sign of struggle with Indonesia, beating them 6-4, almost getting to that tiebreaker. So it was quite a risky one. But overall, we will see why those happened. We will see the strategy overall that both teams are using based on those bans already. You can see that there are double HR bans from the side of South Korea. HR1, HR3 are now out of the way. China is a super strong hard rock team, considering they have Crystal, they have LOL, and overall precision hard rock control is something they are very strong on. And South Korea did homework of their own, because, well, China is now banning more gimmicky maps.
And South Korea immediately opts for the 3-3, so opting into the tapping, which is actually, I think, one of the skill sets that's most closely contended between these two rosters. I honestly thought that South Korea might have opted into a Nomad 5, if anything. Which I think, just in general, reading is something South Korea does have the upper hand on it against China. But opting for that 3-3 first is definitely also a pretty solid option. However, I think it can just be very coin flippy in general, though, considering just, again, how closely contested these teams are. But I feel we can say that about pretty much every single map in this pool.
You really could. And I find this more tapping heavy pick actually quite interesting, because it's usually both countries banning those tapping maps. They do not want to go into those, and it was visible when it came down to qualifiers, right? Both teams, the weakest seeds that they have gotten on the maps in the qualifiers was Noma 2 and DT2, and now we're seeing another tapping heavy map being picked. Both teams clearly, it's clearly not their strongest suit, but they both know that they're not the strongest on that skill set, and that's what makes this pick quite unique, I want to say. 240 BPM shred, speed finger control is the name of this 3-3, and I really have mixed feelings about this, because as you mentioned, it's quite contested here.
Yeah, it's probably I don't know if it's the most contested free mod per se, considering, again, like, I feel just the entire free mod pool is extremely highly contested. And I think it's really down to those mods in South Korea. I think they might just be slightly more comfortable than China on the speed in general, which is why they opted straight into that pick. But at the same time, there's still that Nomad 5 open, which was not banned by China, so kind of surprisingly. I guess China may be faring up a little bit better in comparison to the previous Nomad 5s in this tournament. But I would have thought South Korea would have opened up with that pick since it was left open. But maybe it did catch South Korea off guard. Maybe they thought China was just going to ban the Nomad 5 and they didn't really put enough tries into it. But we will see.
I think I honestly kind of expected, China to think that, well, maybe they would just avoid, the gentleman's rule to avoid all the tapping maps in the pool. I thought it would be, the battle of control versus gimmicks versus precision. Could be something like that, but no, that is not the course of action I was expecting right here, but here we are regardless. Not going to be seeing Crystal on this map. Quite interesting right here. Seeing very much traditional mod combinations. Double HD from South Korea, double HR from China makes perfect sense, and the accuracy is what really gonna matter from the very beginning of this map, trying to show the overall level of comfort.
And we see at the very start, LOL 235 finding a couple of accuracy difficulties. However, they will the accuracy will start to stabilize as we fully get into the map and actually kick off into the main bar sections. And not seeing Chris win this map is kind of expected, not necessarily the most prominent tapping player on the Chinese roster, but getting into a bit more of a KI section, we see both No 1-4 and Primary finding a break for the side of China, so early though South Korea is able to open up a bit of an advantage, but one of his breaks is traded by Athanasia now, so South Korea does still have a slight combo lead, holding on to those 3 FCs up against only 2 on China, and NM4 on another break, so not really being able to build up any recovery, and Lolo235 finds another break on this 3-3, so it's only Z numbers holding on for the side of China, whereas South Korea is holding on to 3 FCs still to get into a little bit more of an easier combo section, and Primary does break on that recovery as well.
Yeah, for sure. Z98 is the strongest Chinese tapping player that they have on the roster, but that is quite noted now because a 3-way FC is not something you want to deal with. With Backball leading the charge, the strongest South Korean player by stat, getting that seed 4 in qualifiers right now, showing why they got such a high position in individual performance, and they do not seem to slow down at any point of this map. Athanasia is also here with the recovery. The entire team synergy on South Korea is just on another level. The tapping maps that they used to lose to Indonesia in their previous match, now they're using those as the instrument of execution, and you look at that 600k score difference already.
Yeah, despite that Garalulu break right before this break, it shouldn't matter too much as you see more breaks coming from China. Primary and NM4 breaking those recoveries a little bit earlier. Mouseway does break from that FC though, but again, already 700,000 score. Babel still on the FC. Athanasia on an incredible recovery combo. Just really is putting a halt to any sort of progressions coming from China. And I think that is a very strong opening pick already from South Korea, completely dominating the tapping at over 800,000 score difference. We see a couple breaks coming in from the side of South Korea now, but still China not really being able to contest South Korea on this 3-3. And this is what I was talking about, the comfortability on the modded players for the side of South Korea, having that double hidden, whereas China opted for the double hard rock and not really working out. You see Primary sitting at that 390k, just not faring up well on the tapping in general. They were at the 960k, Mouseway with the S rank, but most importantly, there is also that FC on China on Z98. Well, just Z numbers is what I generally call him, but overall, a very strong team performance there from South Korea. Nobody really faltering too far behind. So a very great first point for South Korea there.
Wow, just wow. I did not expect this to be the case right here, but now that South Korea is winning a tapping map, that actually opens a lot of opportunities to, you know, pick tapping. I would expect them to normally opt into the gimmick maps because that's what they're strongest on, getting, you know, seed 1 on Nomad 5, seed 1 on AG2 in qualifiers, but no. Okay, but now China is doing another quite risky move in my opinion for this. Yeah, another tapping map is being picked right here, right after 3-3 was opted into. Nomad 2 is of course different, flow aim, 180 BPM, but still not a typical pick I would see coming from China here.
Yeah, it's honestly a bit of a curveball because this Nomad 2, as you did mention, it's not really, it's kind of course, there is that 180 BPM, I guess, kind of stamina, but it's just mostly focused on the flow aim. And China, I guess, just historically, and also with this current roster, they are very strong at the flow aim in general. However, after just losing a tapping map, yes, they got completely different style of maps. Is Nomad 2 really your first avenue of attack? It's a bit of an interesting pick, but again, China should fare fairly well on this map, and South Korea, again, should be pretty strong on this. They were kind of different style of Nomad 2s, but in the qualifiers in itself, South Korea did outseed China just about on the Nomad 2. Yeah. So it will be interesting. It's a very interesting pick. I'm super down for it though, and again, just the fact that focus on flowing might just slightly favor China a little bit more.
Yeah, I totally understand it. I have the same opinion right here, considering, yeah, both teams, I would expect it once again to be controlled battle right here. More, you know, more flexible picks for both countries, but no, we're starting with the last skill set that I would expect to be actually picked. Maybe like, you know, by the end of this match, but no. And of course, the fact that, well, the SR of this pool, it is still about the same level, maybe a bit easier than the qualifiers one, so shouldn't be too bad for either of the countries. Like, looking at their qualifiers performance, we cannot really say that, oh, they'll definitely feel uncomfortable in this one. But it's still a very, very tricky decision right here from China, especially after South Korea already established a point on another tapping map. But there we go. Seems like we're getting some funny drama in chat. Ready up, but should be there really, really soon. This Noma 2, if something wins it, I do not even know what that path would lead them to be fair, Felicia.
It's honestly hard to call. I don't think this Noma 2 really leads anywhere. It's kind of a dead end in a sort of way, because I don't really think there's anything too similar to this left in the pool. It's really just this Noma 2 being a pure floor aim test. And we'll see which team does fare out better on it. I honestly thought China would opt into something like the number 3 or DT4, but alas, we are here at the number 2, which is a map that starts off a little bit slow, not really anything too tricky early on, but then the spacing really starts picking up. You can already kind of see the streams are getting a little bit spaced, but still overall perfectly fine for the players in on this map. As I see that both Mouse and Athanasia find a break for South Korea. So early doors, China does have a little bit of a lead and a little bit of a combo advantage overall, as they are still holding on to the quad FC. As I said, Crystal does find a break, and it is a play that should be perfectly fine on this map. Not too good at some of the higher BPM tapping stamina. It should be perfectly comfortable on 180 BPM flow aim. But yeah, China is faring up a lot better still. 3 FCs up against only 1 now on South Korea, as Garalulu breaks and Athanasia not even be able to find any sort of recovery. And it just feels like what we saw in the free mod 3, where one team is holding on to 3 FCs and the other one's holding on to only 1.
Yeah, and it seems like lower BPM tapping is something that China is quite proficient at, which we don't really expect right here. But so far, the 3 x FC compared to just 1 from Backwall, literally the opposite mirror situation from what we have seen on that 3x3, as you already mentioned. And now China just starts to accelerate, and they will be really, really hard to catch for South Korea. It's just the accuracy that's speaking volumes. South Korea also getting that 4th player Syndrome Nation not being able to hold to a good amount of accuracy as well at Node Lock. And overall, that pattern claimed literally everyone on the side of Team China. 3 FCs are now gone. It's just Backwell with the last FC, the last one standing, but it's not gonna be enough. This map is quite brutal when it comes to spacing. The Axel Diesel streams are hitting you like a truck, and Backwell is gonna lose the FC.
Yeah, the Axel Diesel streams are really, really difficult to hit, and you also have the very awkward angles, which just makes it so much harder. And the fact that there are just no combos left from South Korea, there's only a third of the map left, and China's holding a 400,000 point lead, with Crystal being the last standing combo. Not an FC, but a very solid recovery. And despite us not seeing him in the free mod 3, again, completely different style of map, and Crystal is very, very comfortable in this, as can be seen. Dropping a little bit of accuracy, but holding onto that combo most importantly, and being the third highest accuracy in the lobby. But all of the high accuracies are on the side of China. You have Prime at 98.6 and Lolo235 at 99. So China's not just leading in the combo department, but also the accuracy department. As we get into some of the final flowing sections, it just keeps getting more and more space. The angles get more and more awkward. They will find a break on South Korea, and it is just a Crystal show at this point, eclipsing the 1100 combo mark and looking to top score this map.
Indeed, Crystal just embracing the power metal song right here and punishing South Korea on a tapping map. Not something I was expecting to happen. Here come the more space streams, the hardest ones, and he is nailing those no matter the harsh angles of those streams. He's making it look like it's just bread and butter for him. And it's just the outro now at this point. Will he be able to close it out? The entirety of South Korea has already faltered, but Crystal is still here and he is delivering.
Yeah, Crystal just absolutely devouring this map. Buffet served for Crystal. Look at that ending combo, finding a couple of difficulties early on, but closing out with the top score in the lobby. However, just overall, look at China. Their weakest score was very close to Beowulf on South Korea, which was their strongest score. So, as we can see, we didn't expect this pick coming in from China, but clearly an absolutely amazing pick, as South Korea found significant struggles on the flowing here. The angles being very, very harsh on them overall. And China just really didn't find any issues on the angles overall. The flowing was very, very comfortable for them, which really allowed them to get a very dominant first point as well. And it is back to South Korea now, and what do we see here? Do we see them pick into another tapping, the DT2, DT3, or do we see them go into a gimmick map? Do we see them going into the number 5? I think a map we definitely won't see them pick into is that number 3. We can even potentially see South Korea opting in for that hidden 3, opting in for the hidden, I guess, kind of tech with a bit of flow aim. It's definitely an option.
They could. I mean, South Korea is overall a super strong tag team as well. It's just, well, before this patch, the main notes that I had is that, well, Korea is really strong gimmicks tech and awkward aim. So it would make sense for any of the tech maps to also get opted into. There's a reason why China banned Nomad 4, so Aegis-3 could be an option. But I think, well, the ball is in South Korea's hands, and they have so many different paths to take right now, and they have a pretty solid chance on all of them. And, well, you know, Felicia, might sound a bit weird, but for example, when you're comparing Nomad 5, a gimmick map, a reading that South Korea is super strong at, arguably the strongest in the tournament, I feel like if South Korea picked a DT2 or a DT3 instead, that would have been way more interesting to see, and maybe even would have worked out better.
I mean, it is kind of hard to call at this point because we don't know how South Korea is faring up on the 10.32 60 BPM, and they go for the Nomad 5, which is kind of what we expected their first pick to be. So I guess they just felt a bit more confident on the 3-mod 3 to open up, thinking they could beat China out, especially on those modded players, which really was the case. We did see one of the modded players on China drop just below 400k, whereas I believe everyone in South Korea was above 500k. So they have that confidence in the mods. I don't know if they'll have that same confidence when everyone is just on DT. So this Nomad 5 pick, I think, is a very good avenue of attack for South Korea. Again, we just really thought it would be their first pick overall, considering it was left open. But China, also not really a weak reading team by any stretch of the imagination. But again, it's just South Korea on reading.
It is South Korea on reading indeed. Really expecting Crazy to step in for this one, especially the your former OWC winner that they're bringing back for OWC here. And yeah, overall the lineup of Nopek, JPK, Beckwell, and Choco is really strong in addition to Crazy. So that is a super strong net of players that they're gonna be standing for that Nomad 5. AR6, by the way, a lot of overlaps. The map is quite, well, I don't want to say famous, but it is known. It is known within the tournament community. This one is an edit as well. The original one is CS. Oh, no, not CS. It's AR 7.7 and features a lot of very dense overlap patterns at low BPM, but you just have so many things on your screen, considering the AR6 as well. It makes it kind of hard to control. Same for, those nasty reverse slider kind of control-ish patterns that you have in between the reading elements. That is something that, well, we saw many teams actually find breaks on. So really need to keep being focused on this one, and then you will have it. But yeah, as you mentioned, China will be able to contest that. We saw some breakpoints happen on Nomad 5 in China. They do have, for example, Fujiwara Mako, who I believe have seed 3-2 in last round was just 100 was easy. So that is something very intimidating. But as mentioned, we never know until the map is started.
Yeah, I think the easy factor, the fact that China does have, I guess, maybe 1 or 2 easy players might help them on this, given it is AR6 and it's not something like it's AR8 or AR8.5. So it is kind of on the lower AR side. The CS is also pretty low, sitting at CS3, so fairly big circles. So China might still be able to fare up a little bit better than we initially anticipated. Let's see, we are fully getting into the map now. Let's see if we'll find any early difficulties on any of these players for either team. Early on, it seems to be fairly comfortable for these players, but the map does only ramp up in difficulty, and we see South Korea already leading with a very slight accuracy advantage, and Fujiwara and Nomoko finding the first break for China, and Crystal really struggling in the accuracy department early on as well. But everyone seems to stand pretty tall on this map and not finding any reading difficulties yet.
Yeah, but here comes the slower section. Mitzi is gonna find a break right before that. Not AJK is gonna get a break on slower tapping section right here. Same for Javar, not being able to find any strong footing on this map, which is quite surprising for one of the strongest gaming players right here. South Korea is definitely gonna take the advantage because of that. Still a 3-way FC. The accuracies are also through the roof from Crazy and Back. 99.6 from both of them, and they know what they're doing right here. They already have a 250k score advantage, and it's just the last half of the map left. Unless a total disaster happens on South Korea, it's pretty much already sealed.
Yeah, South Korea just absolutely dominating on this map. So if we do see a double break coming in from South Korea, it could still be a China map at the end of the day. But the accuracy on Chris was really affecting that progress or any sort of score lead that they can recover. No, KJK finding another break for South Korea, but that was not one of the FCs. But it does give it China a little bit more leeway, and the score lead will start stabilizing, especially after that break from Beowulf. But Crystal trades it, and him being on that lower accuracy really puts a damper on China's score here. And as we're getting to the final part of the map, Lolo235 finds another break, and that's all of the FCs from China gone, and only the 2 recoveries standing. And South Korea will just be running away with this point in the tail end of the map. Only about 10 seconds left in the map. And will we see a double FC from South Korea? We will. Crazy and Choco closing out those FCs, and South Korea taking this No 1-5 by 600,000 points. And all 3 points we have seen so far have just been very dominant. Will it be a story that will be told across the entire match? Will every point for each of these teams just be very dominant, or will we see any close points coming in?
Well, Felicia, I feel like for the first half of the match, we will see very, distinct picks from both countries. And then once we get to, I don't know, around like 3-3, maybe a bit later, mid game of the match, that's when I feel like the overall consistency maps you will just need to pick them because you will run out of your solid options. And this is where we will see some very interesting rivalries. But now, China was a DT3. I'm sorry, what?
Free Mod 3, I mean, it is very stamina heavy. Very, very, very stamina heavy. So, they got kind of different style maps. You have, on Free Mod 3, I think the longest burst you see is 16 nodes. Whereas in DT3, I think you see over 30 node streams coming in. The BPM is a little bit lower. And we did see, I think last week, South Korea did slightly outscore China on Gas, which was DT2, but it is kind of just testing the same type of skill set, which is just focusing on the stamina. But overall, it's a surprising pick, to say the least, considering you did... Yeah, you did win No More 2, which I guess has the longest stream, so it's 180 BPM up against, 230 on the CT3, so... Very interesting, actually. I didn't see this coming.
That might be an attempt to just stamina gap South Korea. Maybe from that Noma 2 they made that conclusion. There was flow aim, but we did see some players in South Korea just run out of stamina. And well, that might be it. DT3 is definitely more stamina heavy than Primo 3. Less finger control as well, so you just kind of have to survive. Just click the circles and pray for the best. And well, I'm not sure what to expect from China here either, to be fair. Maybe... Well, I know for sure that Z98 is definitely gonna shred on this map. I'm not sure about the rest, though. I mean, LOL235 as well. Not sure about the 2 supporting scores right here. Well, for South Korea, I'm not sure just about anyone at this point, because... I don't know, stamina with 230 BPM, it's a deadly combination, especially for both countries who are not very famous for picking those tapping heavy maps, but so far that's what we're seeing.
I think in South Korea we'll just see what we saw in qualifiers, which is Athanasia Bewu, I believe it is Hayasaka Ai, which I think is Piper, and Gara Lulu. I think we'll just see that main 4 tapping roster for the side of South Korea. I don't think we'll see any real changes from that, considering just the style of map that the DT2 was in qualifiers compared to what it is now in this pool. We could see mouse play coming in though as well for Piper, but yeah. Let's see the final lineup. And yeah, it is just mouse play substituting Piper. But barring that, no changes from the qualifier lineups. Getting into this DT2 though, DT3, sorry. And we already see China with a pretty significant accuracy as Garlulu really struggling on this map. So is Athanasia down at 85 accuracy, both of them. And China already holding a 60,000 point lead and we're not even 20 seconds into the map.
Yep, indeed, and so far China already has a really good accuracy advantage. Mitzi does find a break, but not looking too shabby. 70k score advantage, and as long as 3FCs keep holding as we're entering this first KI, it's gonna be a smooth sailing. However, another break from Mitzi is gonna be traded out by Athanasia. Still, China is not out of the woods. They need a bit more. Need to see at least one more break from South Korea. South Korea is putting out a very valiant effort right now. Most player 99.5% accuracy, out-attacking everyone right here until a couple of 100s being here dropped by the player. Z99 with a accuracy drop, but Primary and Garlul are the big ones trading each other out. It's a perfect knife fight in real time. At the moment someone misses on the side of South Korea, it's getting traded immediately by China, and that's still allowing the rivalry to be real and constant.
I think the main rivalry here is between Mouse Player and Xenon Numbers, both of them holding 99 ACFCs, and I feel if either of those break, it will just spell absolute disaster for that team. Garlulu finding another break from South Korea, but it is not either of the FCs. Athanasia is starting to recover fairly well, still very low on the accuracy, but holding on to some sort of combo is absolutely vital here. Garlulu finding more repeated breaks, Mitzi's also recovering very well, but it is just a story of those double FCs on both teams. Babel slightly ahead of NM4, but it is so close still. 200,000 points does separate both of these teams, but if either of these FCs break, it will spell disaster for either country.
Yeah, absolutely. Athanasia also combo gaming with 90% accuracy, which is very respectable, but that's also slowing down South Korea from taking the initiative right here. Here comes the last KI. Who has the juice to keep holding till the very end is the question. No one wants to give an inch on this map, Felicia. That is mind-boggling right here. Here are the last tapping sections, the more intense ones. Garlul is gonna falter, but not China. The entirety of China is holding back while it's gonna find that last break on the side of South Korea, which will mean that they're not going to be taking a breakpoint. China's plan worked out. And at this point, I am just speechless of what's happening in this match.
Yeah, South Korea picking into the 3-1-3 initially and winning that out by a very comfortable margin. And then China's like, you know what, we can also tap, goes into the double time 3 and just steals it away. 370,000 score lead. It could have flipped, but China just held onto the double FC. And you did see that recovery combo coming in fairly late from, I believe it was Athanasia, I think eclipsing the 1200 combo mark, finding a miss on, I think, the very final slider. But again, not enough for South Korea to steal that pick from China, and it is back to South Korea to find another point. And at this point, what do you go for? You lost on the DT3 after winning 3-1-3. You picked the normal 5 and won comfortably. Do you just go for the hidden 3 here? I think that's probably your best pick from now onwards.
I would very much want to see an Aegis 3 being played by both of these amazing rosters. Well, that would be a very logical pick. If not, I feel like the other map that you could try doing would be Fremont 2, but you know, Fremont 2 could be also contested by China really well. I am already seeing like at least one easy modification coming from China that will trade somebody from South Korea. But yeah, it's just that, well, Fremont 2 is something that both countries can play, so not sure about this one. They both can play it really well. It's just a matter of who's feeling more comfortable, so quite a risky move. And they decided to do that. So Aegis 3 would work better. You did talk about Nomad 3 as well, and that would also make sense. Another control map picked by South Korea would be something I would not be surprised if we saw. Fremont 4 as well, another tech map, and South Korea is just super strong when it comes to tech. But yeah, it was between Fremont 4 and Aegis 3, and they are going for the original.
Yeah, but the original by Saver XD, map by Basherman and Westbeat, the illustration done by Kaimaniac. So thank you, all of you, for your amazing work on this Hidden 3. We really much do appreciate it, and it's a great map, and I'm really looking forward to it. A great song, great illustration as well. It's, yeah, this map is, as I have mentioned multiple times across this weekend, I think it is feeling echoed by the players. Probably the hottest map in the pool. Very, very tech and slightly flowing focused, and I'm excited to see us played because China is very strong on the skill cap. But then again, so is South Korea, especially on the hidden skill cap. So I'm really excited. I think this could be a very, very close map, maybe the closest map we have seen so far. But we could just see South Korea just completely going off on this map and taking a dominant win. Who knows? We've seen already quite a few unexpected things in this match already.
Yeah, at this point, well, noting what happened in the last 4 maps, we should just sit there and enjoy the show because, well, every time HS3 gets played, it's always really hype, and you already mentioned it's a really hard one. I believe the highest score the highest score on this map by any of the teams, even the highest seeded teams, was 1.7 million, so definitely a skill cap attempt right here. And this map is also super hard to play in match. We did see some players showed their FCs from practice scores, but it's just almost impossible to replicate that in the actual match because you have so many sections that are very challenging, not only on control and tag, but also on flow, finger control, rhythm checks. You have all of that, and it's quite a dance map as well. It's really fun to play, but the point stands. That is something that only the highest seeded teams are supposed to pop off on. And luckily, we have 2 of them here.
Yeah, Seed 4 and Seed 5 going off on this map. I think it is probably the best battle we can already ask for. These 2 teams, extremely skilled at these sort of maps. But again, you might want to get the upper hand in general to South Korea. But if we are to see the highest score in lobby, it would be in this match. South Korea and China, again, 2 titans of not just the 4-digit World Cup scene, but also just the OSA World Cup scene. China coming very close to taking the OSA World Cup in 2015, and South Korea being a multiple OSA World Cup champion. In fact, we even have one of them in the lobby, that being crazy, being the OSA World Cup, I think, 2 and 3 champion for South Korea. So, again, we will eventually about the OSA World Cup, and we have a winner in here. Getting into this hidden 3, though, the custom song and map, and I'm really looking forward to this. Early on, we see South Korea falling a little bit behind in the accuracy, but the map is still yet to kick off. We get a little bit of build up before we get into another break, and then the map starts building back up again. Will we see any misses before the break? It doesn't seem like it. Everyone holding on very comfortably, and we are soon going to be getting into the main part of the map, and I am really much looking forward to it.
Alright, fasten your seatbelts because we are taking off right now as the first guy. Let's see, the map has no chill after this moment. It's gonna get only harder and harder, and Crazy is gonna be the first one to lose the full combo. However, everyone else still keeps holding China right now, trying to run away, but My Hero is gonna reply to Crazy. So still 3 versus 3, but never mind. Choco is also here. This map is quite brutal, and soon enough we're gonna see more and more breaks. Here comes another one from My Hero. However, there is still the 3-way FC going on inside of Team China, and the accuracies are not struggling by all the means.
Yeah, but despite those 3 FCs being held by China, you have South Korea recovering very well. Both Crazy and Choco eclipsing that 200-300 combo mark, so still doing fairly well despite having missed pretty early on. And this is what I was talking about, a pretty high scoring lobby will happen in this match. Again, Seed 4 versus Seed 5, the closest seed winning matchup you're gonna get in this weekend. And oh, wait, that's a double break from South Korea, with Baywoo and Crazy finding a break. Choco holding on to the recovery combo, so South Korea still very much in this, but they will need a couple of breaks coming from China. Crazy finding some more repeated breaks, but Mitzi, Crystal, and Lolo235 just absolutely going off, and Choco breaking that recovery, and it's a near full reset. No, KJK breaks on the FC, and it's only Lolo235 holding on for the side of China now.
Yeah, but it is Lol235 for the mission right here. 170k score difference already, and who else if not the strongest player in 4WC by statistics, top 1 in qualifiers, to take it all the way till the very end right now. Not seeming to stop whatsoever. Already 3/4 into the map with an FC outscoring literally anyone who has touched this map in a match right now. Just setting a new bar, a new limit to this one with 97% accuracy. It's not a matter of whether China will take a break point, it's a matter of LOL making that FC possible, but no, it's gonna be a break right here. But Felicia, the point stands. That is going to be the first break point of this match, and that is huge for China. And the map is not even over.
It will be the first breakpoint, but look who was taking over the reins. It was Crystal, another titan of the tournament scene. Unfortunately finding a break though, but South Korea just has absolutely no answer to those gargantuan combos both found on Crystal and Lolo235. And that score is just absolutely incredible by China. Almost getting to the 2 million mark, which is insane on this Hidden 3. What a performance we saw by China, and especially Crystal and Lolo235. Again, David Q and Crystal have been in the tournament scene for a very, very long time and have been some of the best Chinese tournament players around. Not in rank restricted tournaments, just open rank in general. So strong. I think, honestly, over the past 8 years even, like, they've been around for a very long time.
And that might be the turning point right here. Since the first breakpoint, China now having the opportunity to try and gain that momentum, make it 4-2, and that would be huge for the economy right here. The only question is, well, they won that Noma 2, that doesn't lead us anywhere. Now that they are winning HD3, would it be reasonable for them to go into Fremont 4 considering it's another tech map?
I feel it might be kind of reasonable, but then again, you're also playing South Korea in general on the modded on the mods, and we saw in Fremont 3 just how comfortable. Again, it is a completely different style of map, yeah, but South Korea is just so comfortable on the mods in general. So they might stray away from the Fremont 4, and they might pick into something like the Hard Rock 2 instead, potentially, to try and get the breakpoint on South Korea, considering that is the only Hard Rock map left open. I think China was one of the highest scoring teams on Hard Rock 2 out of qualifiers. But never mind, scrap that, we go for the double time 2, which, considering DT3, it does make sense. It is AR 10.3 though, it's a high BPM and not as stamina focused. So, it's, again, an interesting pick I didn't really see coming, but I guess, given the result on DT3, I understand it.
Yeah, I honestly, this matchup, you know, those picking strategies kind of do not make sense right now to me. It would be so reasonable to go for HR2, right? I mean, you have Crystal on your team, and literally Precision Crystal is almost a synonym at this point, considering, you know, just overall history, that, you know, how many times Crystal managed to carry not only China but overall his teams on the small circle maps, as well as of course other teammates of Crystal. But no, DD2, what can we say about this? It's, some might consider in stamina. I feel like for South Korea the stamina aspect will actually play a big role, while, you know, compared to China, I do not think it's gonna be happening because of that DT3. They showed us that they do not really have issues with the stamina aspect of any map in this pool. So DT2 would work in this regard, but it's not so tapping intensive. It does have bursts, doubles, triples, quads, and overall it's a really high BPM map, but it's not so intense. It doesn't have very long tapping sections. So for South Korea, if they manage to hold through the little jumps, through the little finger control sections, it would be, you know, actually a good map to try and pay China back for that breakpoint.
Yeah, I mean, this map doesn't really test the stamina, as you did mention. I think the longest burst you have in this is 12 notes, but it is also, I'd say, the easiest part to break on, because you have the sliders getting followed up on by the bursts, which you might see side breaks coming in on them, given the fact that South Korea in general, you did see those lower accuracies on the double time 3. So they may cause difficulty despite it not necessarily being a complete stamina test. But I guess we just have to wait and find out as we are getting into this double time 2 now. And again, I honestly don't know who saved it on this. I genuinely don't know.
Indeed, it's quite a never-ending DD2. It just plays and it just refuses to end. You feel like, oh, I hit a really hard pattern, but the map is not even halfway done. And that's the entire story about this one. So quite a big challenge for both countries, quite a tall task to close it off with an FC. We haven't seen many FCs on this map yet, but they are quite doable. I do anticipate at least one or two from either of the sides. That's in Asia. However, first blood is going to be drawn on the South Korean player right here.
Yeah, you did see Lolo235 with a very early break, but it is very inconsequential given the current scores on the map. Mouseplay finding another break for the side of South Korea. That will start to matter though. Athanasia being able to recover fairly well though. But once the actual bursts start kicking off in this map is when we'll start seeing more and more breaks. Athanasia really struggling with the 10.3, even finding some struggles and some misreads. But no one else finding any other consequential breaks on this map. China still holding on strong to the near quad FC. As I say, Primary does find a break on the slider. And this is what I was talking about. The sliders after the burst are really going to cause some issues for these players. But look at the accuracy of Mouseplay. 99.2% almost. It's kind of crazy. Just finding a very unfortunate break. But that is a combo that you should see rising up. And we should see them coming in with a pretty solid recovery combo. I don't even finding another break, so really struggling to build up any sort of combo. But again, Piper is pretty low on that accuracy for South Korea, whereas the FCs on China aren't really struggling on any sort of accuracy. And still a 200,000 point lead for China now.
Yep, and I believe we'll be entering a more intensive finger control section soon enough. And right now, Mouse player, the one who's supposed to be the anchor for South Korea, is not fulfilling that role. Nature's also finding a break. The recovery is here, but you need to keep holding more and more because China, they built a wall and it's not cracking at any point. LOL finally gonna go down on one of those kick slider patterns. But Hayasaka is trained it immediately, which still allows China to have a very distinct advantage. The strong footing on this map. A solid ground of 240k score difference. Noah 4 and Z98 are gonna lead the charge right here. Last quarter into it, Mouse player is recovering. Backwell is also here trying to deliver, but China is just too far ahead.
Yeah, and if it's a story like we saw in the double time 3, then nothing will really change. But Primary finds a break on side of China, and that was the recovery combo. However, China's still ahead on the FCs, but wait, Noah 4 finds a break. It's just Z Numbers holding on to the FC, and if Z Numbers finds a break relatively soon, then South Korea can still come back into this, as Mouse plays holding on to very strong accuracy and very solid recovery combo. But I just don't think there will be enough map left. Babel is already eclipsing the 1.1 million score mark, and China will be taking away a 4th point and fully consolidating the break point here. And despite it getting a bit dicey towards the end, China just had enough supporting score to really pull them through, as Athanasia was just really finding quite a lot of difficulties to combo all throughout the map. But still, we do see that the double FC coming in. We see both Babel and Z Numbers finding the FC. Mouse play was a very unfortunate break, and actually that break honestly cost him the entire map. If you look at the difference, only 230,000. So unfortunate for the side of Mouse player, but unfortunately that is the way the cookie crumbles.
Indeed, they definitely did have a chance. The Mouse player FC this one. It would have been enough to actually equalize the match score, make it 3-3. But that's what it is here now. This China setting the pace in this match. South Korea will just try to keep up. And well, the good part is for Team South Korea is that, well, the only really, somewhat tapping heavy map that you have left in the pool is that DT1, mainly because of the 270 BPM burst, which, it does feel a bit similar to the D2 in its nature, but it's way more primitive, so I do not think it's going to be that big of a trouble for South Korea if DT1 gets opted into. So that's on the bright side. Now they just need to stand their own ground right here, and what could you go for? I am once again eyeing that free mod 2 or no mod 3. I feel like those two would be the best options. Would not risk it with free mod 4, considering China were all just showing us that they're in a pretty much prime position on tech as well as consistency, and free mod 4 is all about that. So wouldn't be the smartest choice in my opinion, but we'll see.
I think the main concern for South Korea picking free mod 2 is the fact that China might have a couple of easies planned on it. And again, I think you could see 2 easies on South Korea. I think you might likewise see about the same thing on China. And yeah, South Korea does not opt into their free mod 2. They opt for the hidden one. I think
Oh.
I could be wrong. It's the first time we see the hidden one getting picked this weekend. Never mind. It was picked in the United States versus Philippines, which then I believe
Alright.
that was the first time we saw it picked. But only the second time we see this map getting played. And I honestly don't really have any words to describe this map. It's your AR9 hidden one. It has it's a great song. I love this song. I really like seeing this getting pulled.
Yeah.
But it's, I guess, difficult in a way. Like, the aim is tricky, and you have a couple of, I guess, streams as well. So you could see a couple of players finding some difficulties in the flow on this. But I think overall the main aspect of this map is the AR9 aim.
Yeah, it's also, adding the fact that it's 180 BPM, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Just allows the mapper to obviously space out those jumps to, all the corners of the screen to make them completely cross screen. Probably the biggest jumps that we have in this entire pool, as well as you have some flow bursts, some flow streams at 180 BPM. That's some people we might be seeing finding breaks on. And overall, it's a very, very long map. Pretty funny thing that the mapper of this map is actually the one who mapped down, I believe, the famous Noma tree, right? So
Yes.
that is something just for fun note. But HD1, we did see. I do remember Indonesia trying to abuse South Korea with the consistency maps. It worked out on Nomad 1, but Nomad 1 was called different story in the round of 16. HD1, first of all, it's an HD map. China overall doesn't really like the HD mod, I would say. We did see that HD2 ban, but still, it's I have no clue at this point of the match. Both teams are picking not the maps that I would usually see them. Like some of those did align with my guesses, but so far each country just keeps surprising me.
I don't think the issue is necessarily the hidden for China. It's just the AR8, or in this case, it's AR7 on the hidden 2. Because South Korea is just insanely strong at that gimmick reading skill set. As we saw in the Nomad 5, and as we might see on the Fremont 2, you'll probably see the hidden player, if we see any hiddens coming on the Fremont 2 on South Korea, far excelling what we see on China. But again, this hidden one, I think, does play a little bit more into the hands of South Korea. Not as skill cap heavy as the hidden 3. So we will see how this does go early on. Not really any sort of accuracy drops. Not really anyone finding any issues settling into the map. But again, it is a very slow section, so very easy to hit. But again, if we ought to see any player finding some consistent struggles, we should already see it pretty early on. Despite it being, I guess, kind of easy, you're not really... If you're not comfortable on this sort of map, you will kind of show these discomforts on the lower 6-star jumps.
Yeah, indeed. Considering you have really, really big jumps, you need the most steady aim that you have to be in the right mindset right here. And so far, both countries are showing that, well, accuracy is not a problem for them at all. It's just the battle of consistency that we're gonna be seeing later down the line. But so far, everyone is nailing those jumps. Let's see if anyone gets caught up by those streams. Z9A is actually gonna be the first one, but oh my god, not anymore. Mitzi and Lol are gonna join the trend. China, just in the blink of a second, only Crystal is left alone in the battlefield, while South Korea is here with a 4-way.
And this is what I was talking about at the start of the map. You have those streams, and China really did find quite a bit of an issue on the floor, and you saw Z numbers really finding a significant amount of chain misses. Whereas South Korea is still holding on to a quad FC, they will still on that SS, and as I mentioned, the quad FC Choco goes down. So it is still 3 FCs standing strong for South Korea, but Crazy finds a break as well, so only 2 left standing. And look at the recoveries on China. As I said, that one of them does find a break mid-C, finding a break on that recovery combo. For the rest of China recovering fairly well, but South Korea still overall with a bit of a combo lead as we get into some more cross-screen jumps. And here comes the flowing once again. Will China find any more consistent breaks, or will it be South Korea's turn? No, mid-C's the one to find a break, but it wasn't on any of those significant recoveries. Z numbers and Lolo recovering pretty well, but Crystal finds a break on that FC, and it is 2 FCs up against absolutely nothing on the side of China, and South Korea can really just propel this lead further and further towards their favor.
Yeah, this map is a silent killer. It just bit back. It seems so peaceful, but those jumps, as well as the flow aim that you have here, that combination is quite deadly, quite lethal, and it claims almost the entirety of China. Of course, LoL and Z numbers are here with a recovery, but South Korea, they are being the pacemakers of this map right here with Backhole and no KJK, the deadliest duo on the side of Team South Korea, are showing why they have that reputation, why they're the strongest individual players of that country. Z98 and LoL are gonna lose the recoveries on the flow sections again. The team that won Noma 2 is now being abused by those flow streams.
Yeah, Bay will find a break in South Korea, but again, the BPM is very similar to that Noma 2, but the AR is low and it's also on the hidden. And you have the premier South Korean OWC hidden player, Nope KJK, who was still standing strong, but unfortunately finding a break. And it is down to the veteran on the team, Crazy, who does also find a break. I have just cursed the entirety of South Korea. I am very sorry. The two veterans of OWC going down, but still building up a 750,000 score lead. More than enough to absolutely dominate this point and steal it away from China. And South Korea have a chance now to try and win on China's point, because it does go back straight to China for that pick. But what a great team score from South Korea. China just really not faring up well on the flow aim. They did pretty well on the aim, but as soon as the flow aim hit, you saw triple break coming in on pretty much every single stream section. I think only the second stream section was the one where China didn't find any sort of breaks. And South Korea just held on really, really strong to it overall, which is very clearly shown by these scores. Nope KJK with only that singular slider break. Very, very close to the FC. Bale with the one miss as well. Absolutely incredible scores here by South Korea.
Totally. They might have found the weakness of China right here, which I honestly didn't expect China to actually get tripped up by the flow aim, considering Noma 2 was very successful for them, but apparently the HD on top of those flow aim sections was something that really threw them off the rails. And that is quite good for South Korea, but even before discussing the strategy for South Korea, we already have an instant response from China. DT1, the one that we were talking about after China won DT2, that the closest map that there is left, which is quite similar to DT2, is a DT1. It's not as stacked in terms of those patterns, not as much finger control. It's higher BPM though, it's 270 BPM bursts with some awkward-ish aim, speed aim, is what you call it. And that is not as stable as DD2, I would say.
Flockhook, thank you, Sonny, for me. Can you please read the exact BPM of the DT1?
Huh?
Can you just read the exact, please?
Why? Why would you want me?
I want to hear the exact BPM so the stream can know what the exact BPM is.
It's 267.
Thank you very much. But yeah, this double time one, very similar to the double time 2. It does have slightly less burst, though, and it is, I guess, a tiny bit more focused on the aim. It's a very hybrid focus map, though, in general. And again, if we saw China doing fairly well on the double time 2, I think it might be just a story repeating itself in general, considering, again, they're just kind of similar style of maps. You did see South Korea kind of having that fourth player syndrome, having one player kind of lowered down in the scoring department, whereas China just, I guess, had a very strong core roster of 4. However, again, maybe the slightly high BPM might play into the hands of South Korea a tiny bit more, being a little less focused on attacking in comparison to the DT2.
Yeah, that will be it for sure. It's quite similar to the DT1 we saw in the previous round, which I do believe South Korea actually lost against Indonesia. And, well, you look at this DT1, it's not so far off from the DT1 we saw last week. China probably saw that, decided to go for it. But as mentioned, South Korea managed to show a really respectable score. They fought back on that DT2. If only Mouseplayer did FC, it would have been a whole different story, but now China is banking on another DT map, which might be even more gamble-ish right here. Well, we'll see how this one goes. We're gonna see more and more of those tricky bursts in the first cat. So far, just the intersection. Let's see the overall level of comfort of both teams.
I mean, considering what we did see on Double Time 2, both teams should be fairly comfortable in this map. Maybe you might have one player finding some difficulty, but actually, the player who was, I think, struggling the most in the previous map, or the previous tapping map, the Double Time 2, is actually swapped out now, so Athanasia out for this map. But the fast break on this map, the first blood, is Z numbers for the side of China. And South Korea's already being able to build up a pretty solid accuracy lead. I think every single player above 99% on the side of South Korea, whereas China only has 2. So all it was about a 50,000 point lead. However, it is a pretty small lead considering we still have almost all combos standing. But Babel was the first person to go down on South Korea now, which does even things out a little bit. And Mouse player also finding another break. So China now all of a sudden with the combo lead. You did have primary break a little bit earlier on though. So it's 2 FCs to 2 still. However, China does have the higher recovery on Z numbers, but Lolo235 finding a break for China, which gives the combo lead straight back to South Korea now.
Yeah, South Korea does smell blood in the water, and they are gonna take it all the way. It's different compared to that DT2 where Mouse player did find a break and there was no one to support. Now it's still double FC and the accuracy is not struggling whatsoever. Hayasaka and Lulu are taken to the 1-4 team right here. Mouse player might fall back again, but still two-way FC and a really good support from back, while the accuracies are through the roof for both countries actually, and it seems like South Korea is having a lead right here, but not until the guitar solo section. Hayasaka and Lulu are gonna find catastrophical misses right here, and China is not gonna follow.
It just completely explodes all of the plans for South Korea. South Korea very much in it to win it, but the double breaks on the FCs of South Korea really proving to be costly. Mouse player breaking on some sort of recovery. It's just Babel left standing, and even that is gone. It's a full reset for South Korea, and China can just run away with this pick. Look at how the score balloons. 600,000 points. It will eclipse 700,000 points in absolutely no time. Still 4 combos standing on China. 2 FCs, well 1 FC and 3 extremely solid recoveries. Z numbers with the Apraxia method, and NM4 now finding a break, but doing more than enough work as the score gap goes over 1 million now. And what a dominant pick from China to get them to that match point.
This is the most dominant pick, in fact, we have seen from China so far. I am speechless right here. South Korea actually had it in their hands until the solo section, until the bridge started. And then just in the nick of time, all of them lost their combos, and the last QI was also quite brutal. They were not able to get any recoveries, which, yeah, China just had a better position right here. And it worked out really well. Now they just need to find one more map to close it off and advance to semifinals winners bracket.
And what map will it be? It is South Korea's turn to pick though. So honestly, at this stage, I think you might just want to go into free mod 1 or free mod 2. I don't think you really want to opt into anything. And then China's final pick, if it gets to that stage, I think should just be that harder 2. All of the DTs gone in your favor, the normal 2 gone in your favor, also stealing that breakpoint away on Hidden 3 from South Korea. So I think that harder 2 left standing tool will be the final pick for China if it does get to that point though. But South Korea to pick first, and I think it just really comes down to that free mod 1 or free mod 2.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely could be. Because, yeah, you did see South Korea actually excel at that HD1, but there is nothing really similar, which is, you know, AR9, more conventional jumps, more spaced out jumps. Like Nomad 1, you could say it, but no, it's way higher BPM, it's way more dense. The jumps are not so big throughout the screen, so wouldn't really be the perfect opportunity right here. It's just the matter of what you're feeling more comfortable on, because at this point there is nothing that you can be sure China will not be able to top, so you have to risk. And well, usually we do see South Korea picking those free mod 2 maps. We did see that in round of 16, I believe, but we also did see that from China as well. So at this point, as mentioned, there is no one holds an edge on any of the remaining picks, unless it's Hard Rock 2, which China on paper should be favored, but it's not a story about them right now.
Yeah, like, again, wait, free mod 4 pick
Whoa.
coming from South Korea. I honestly didn't expect it, considering what we did see on Hidden 3, but again, free mod 4 is quite a bit easier, and I think it's a lot more slider focused than Hidden 3 was. And this map I think I can see it playing towards the side of South Korea a little bit more, given the fact that they have shown to be, I guess, just a bit more comfortable in the Hidden overall in this entire match. And this map isn't really a map you want to overmod and hard rock on. You want to take 2 Hiddens, 1 hard rock, and 1 no mod. You don't want to take 2 hard rocks on this map. So this should be, honestly, a fairly okay pick for South Korea, opting to avoid the free mod 2 to not chance China taking any sort of extremely strong easies, which I guess does make sense.
It does make sense. I definitely do not expect anyone to take easy on this free mod 4 in comparison to free mod 2, so it's...
Well, I mean, unless you're Markram, I guess, which, I mean...
Unless we don't talk about Markram.
Yeah.
This guy keeps surprising, like, everyone. But yeah, free mod 4, I mean, will China catch that thing? It's way harder to play with hard rock rather than with HD. If China figures that out and goes for double HD, 1 HR, 1 no mod, things might get a bit wonky for South Korea. Because I don't think it's gonna be a huge issue for China to take 2 HDs instead of 2 HRs.
You know, China does definitely have the depth on the mod roster to take 2 Hiddens on this, but again, we did see just South Korea fare up a little bit better on that free mod 3. Again, it's a completely different style of map. But they just seemed overall a lot more comfortable on the mods, which, I mean, we see China taking the most on the map, which is that Hidden 3. But then again, you could argue No Mod 4 is kind of a similar map, and China opted to ban it against South Korea. So, it's kind of a map that's at an interesting point. I think it's a bit coin flippy overall.
Yeah, I do feel that, and especially considering the pressure that South Korea must be feeling right now. Should be definitely a tall task. If they keep it under control, I feel like a free mod 4, considering, well, no mod 4 was just no mod, free mod 4 is being modded as well, so it's a bit harsher if you do find a break, and overall harder to keep consistency on that with mods. Should be something that South Korea needs to, you know, just implement that victory. And we're seeing the mods right here. Double HD from South Korea, 1 HR from them as well. And China indeed does match that with the mirror lineup. Kristen Lolo with double hit, my hero was now at mid-C with hard rock finding the break already. You can clearly see how how punishing this map is with hard rock. Type in XD right here with the smoke, but yeah, that's only the early days. The Turkey Ice is what truly matters. Those are quite intense when it comes to slide Raymond. We're about to see them now.
As we get into the first KI section very soon, and here comes the sliders. Will we see any early breaks? Garalulu fighting for his life with that combo, dropping quite a lot of accuracy, so is mid-C, but most importantly, holding onto the combo on that hard rock. I think it will be a story of the combos on the hard rock, which one will find the most breaks. But Babel is the first person with not using hard rock to find a break, and Garalulu does also find a break on that hard rock FC. So, oh wait, the Babel break was just a banter break. Okay, so still 3 FCs up against 3. And South Korea with a very early lead based off of mid-C's slightly lower accuracy, and I guess just South Korea having the upper hand generally on the accuracy, missing a lot less slider ends. And no one else is finding a break on this Ki. Everyone's so comfortable. Choco finds a break, and so does Nope KJK. So a double break at the final tail section of the first Ki, which does give China a pretty significant combo lead. I think mid-C was also able to recover fairly well, so not looking good for South Korea here.
Yeah, that point win just slipping through South Korea's fingers right before the slow part, finding a 2 break from Nope KJK and Choco, who were actually top scorer in the lobby. It's not gonna look so great, especially the the nuclear bomb that China is currently launching with that 3-way FC on a slow section is only gonna make things easier for them to consolidate that lead, to take the advantage, because it's just free 100 combo. They keep holding and the lead just keeps growing no matter the biggest efforts of Baywall. It's just not enough. The second KI is the last saving grace for South Korea. Mahir does find a break, that's one down, but you do need more. The last KI will be the last chance for South Korea. They cannot allow any mistakes from now on. Here comes one from Crystal. There is enough time, Felicia.
The Crystal breaking is absolutely massive, but they will need Garaloo to hold on to that hard rock. Choco finding a break on the Nomad, on the hidden, sorry, I should say. And it is Lolo235 holding on to the Soul FC for China. Garaloo breaking on that recovery on the hard rock for South Korea will really spoil their plans and make their progress even slower. China starts extending the score lead just based off of the combos they are holding. And South Korea have absolutely no hope here unless Lolo235 finds a break in this tail section, which she doesn't. KJK does find a break, but hold on, Lolo235 falls! But it's all down to Babel now, and all recovery combos from China are gone. It's just Mahiro holding onto a slight recovery. Will it be enough? Will Babel be able to bring it back? 20,000 points! It's going down to the wire! I don't think there'll be enough time, and China will just about steal it away. Wait, no, South Korea!
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean? They got it! 727 as well from Baywall FC in this match. I can't with this match. What are we witnessing right here?
I'm gonna double check the MP link on that.
We should.
Give me a second, because this is a very much a banter map. So yeah, okay, South Korea can take away by 23k. Yeah, so wow, just about. Babel's FC coming in so clutch at the end. And again, I feel it's the second time on a tech map that I have kind of commentator cast a team. Other than one for I cast Poland with the double FCs. I think it was on Square M, and I forget the other player. And in this case, I cast China's sole remaining FC, and South Korea does this time actually steal the point away, but it's China's pick now, and I think we just look at that Hard Rock 2. I don't think there is a single better pick other than the Hard Rock 2.
China needs to pull out the big gun. It's Hard Rock 2 that they should just always win against almost any team. Ironically enough, the only map that they lost in their previous match against Ukraine was Hard Rock 2, but we don't talk about that Hard Rock 2. That the Hard Rock 2 in the previous round was just so diabolical. It is hard to judge anyone who played that map. China, this Hard Rock 2 is it's way more conventional. It of course does test the CS615 precision, and it would make sense, but no, they are avoiding it. They're avoiding it, Felicia. Noma 3 is the last map potentially of this match. The last pick from China as well.
Yeah, it is the custom map picked by China. It is, I guess, a bit more aim control focused. You have a tiny bit of sniper as well in this, and it is quite tricky. It honestly, I think it's a little bit easier in the Hidden 3, but I think it is on the harder end of the maps in the pool. So I guess China kind of opting into the skill cap picks to try and offset South Korea. And will China be able to take this, or will we see a tiebreaker scenario coming in between the Seed 4 and Seed 5 of this 4WC? It is gonna be very, very interesting to see, honestly.
Yeah, I guess so. I do not know how else to just describe this entire match. Noma 3, we did see a lot of people say that it's on the harder side of the pool, so similar strategy to that HD3, I'd assume. Of course, does feature different type of skill set of mapping as well, obviously. Custom from Judge first, and features a lot of wiggly flow aim as well as overall snap alt. And to describe Judge First's style of mapping, and it's freeform alt, so it's not your standardized alt patterns that you typically see on Nomad 3. They are a bit more unconventional, which makes this map at least a class harder than your typical Nomad 3 maps, your typical alt maps, and that's what China should be banking on right here, I feel like.
Yeah, it is a very much unconventional map. It is, as you did mention, not even somewhat like your general number 3, so it does weigh in a little bit more to the skill cap. Unconventional mapping, not very comfortable. and I feel that might just play into China's hands a little bit more, given the fact that I guess its second class is a little bit harder than the general number 3 for this pool. And we have seen, for example, that Hidden 3, just how strong China is on that skill cap, especially with the play by Crystal, just absolutely going off on the map. And also Lolo235 also having a very, very good score in that Hidden 3. I think it is two players we will definitely see in for this number 3. Hidden 3, a different style of mapping, but also on the harder end of the pool, so China should have a very good shot on this map for sure.
Totally. Very hard challenge right here for both countries. We did see South Korea already pop off on some of the maps. Same for China. Well, let us the strongest team win this one. If China fails to succeed in that one, we will see with the first, actually, tiebreaker of this entire round. But that is not the topic for now. It's number 3 that is before in front of the players, that they need to give their absolute best to keep staying in the winner's bracket. And right now it's just the intersection out of the way. Everyone is holding really well.
Yeah, everyone finding no sorts of difficulties, nothing on the floor aim. You see South Korea slightly playing ahead with the accuracy here. Crazy finds a couple of breaks now though, dropping that SS, and it really is not looking too good early on for the side of South Korea. See Choco and Crazy breaking once again, but Primary does trade it for China, but overall still 3 SCs being held up against only 2 on South Korea, so China able to take a little bit of a lead now.
Yeah, indeed, as we go into the first guy, full throttle, no turning back from now on. First guy is one of the hardest sections of the map. The flow aim section is gonna be missed by Crazy and Mitzi trading each other out, which now makes South Korea back in the game. It's completely equal combo distribution. 2 FCs from Lola and Crystal, traded by Bagwell and no KJK. Bagwell, however, the moment I say his name, is gonna find that break, which now allows the Chinese superstars, Crystal and Lol, to just take the advantage and run away. And that second verse, that is gonna be a more so free combo, but Crystal is gonna break on practically nothing. And South Korea, it's not done yet.
Yeah, it's only a 15,000 score difference. Crystal really finding a break on, I guess, one of the easiest combo sections, and Primary on a slight recovery, also finding a break. These are breaks that will really start to matter, since it is only 1 FC up against 1. You have 2 of the Titans on both of these teams holding onto their combos. Nope, KJK and Lolo235, 2 mainstays of their respective OWC rosters. Choco finding a break on that 400 recovery combo for South Korea. Babel as well, and these are important breaks. I think that might actually give a slight combo advantage to China now, but it is very minor. With that break from Crazy coming in, there are no more recoveries starting of South Korea. And you still see those 2 recoveries, Mitzi and Crystal on China. It is very, very close, and the score should start falling towards the side of China now. But Lolo breaking on that FC! It's just no KJK holding on now. And South Korea really have a good shot at taking this out. It's a full reset from China. No combos left standing. And it's just all up KJK to extend the score as much as he can before he finds a break. If he finds a break even.
Yeah, Nob KJK is just walking around with a loaded shotgun, and well, he clearly shot Lolo with that last FC in the Battle of Veterans. Nob KJK took the advantage, and he knows he's the only one, he's the star of the show, he's the spotlight now. It's do or die for South Korea, but Nob KJK is still unwavered, unfazed by anything that's happening. He is living this moment, and this number 3 finding a break, but is there enough time for China to bring it back? 140k might have been just enough for South Korea to get that safety net deployed, to get in the safe zone. More and more breaks coming from South Korea, but Choco is here to take the hit. However, there is another break from him. China now, last couple of seconds of the map are left. Primary and Lola are here with 400 combo regardless. Hold on, Felicia, this might come down to the very wire. South Korea might have not ran away too far enough. China is chasing them down, but is there enough time? Do they have what it takes? 40k, it's decreasing, but no, it's not gonna be enough. In fact, China was so close to finishing off, but South Korea refused, just like on that 3-4 back-to-back. We're gonna see a tiebreaker.
Back-to-back 30,000 score differences is absolutely insane. South Korea just about clutching out. No, KJK being the angel with a shotgun, absolutely flying high and taking this point for South Korea and guaranteeing themselves tiebreaker. What a close match we have seen so far. And I don't think there's any better way to end such a match other than with a tiebreaker. Seed 4 versus Seed 5, the closest matchup we have had all weekend. We've seen some incredible scores, and it all culminates down to this tiebreaker. And I'm so excited for this.
Me too. That I could not even describe how happy I am. We saw so many matches end up in 6-4 outcome, being just so one step away from tiebreaker. But now is in fact gonna happen. And well, what else could you ask for? That tiebreaker is Rune Cascade. It was an original from the Oceania 7K World Cup in 2025, and there is also obviously a also standard version, and it's just such a phenomenal song from Ken and Miko, which definitely sets the atmosphere for such a match.
Yep, and I think this is just such a great map to end it on. It's just such a great song, as you did mention, and I think it really does paint the picture of what the match has been. Such a great way to end it on. It's just, again, like, it's a song that really does paint the picture of the entire match, and honestly, I honestly don't even know who's favored on this. We have seen so many close laps. I really want to see us going down to the wire. And will we see the Titans of China standing up strong, or will the Titans of South Korea be able to steal this away? Will we see the Nub KJK crazy mouse player show? Will we see the Crystal and Lolo show on China, the Z number show as well? Who will take this away? Who will be the Titan to stand above the rest?
Indeed. This is a great question, and we're sending the stream thing because it is the first one we're gonna see this weekend. And there we are. I'm willing to die on this hill. I'm doing that at here thing. I don't care. This is the spectacle you came here for. This is what you came here to watch. It's definitely worth of your attention. But yeah, this entire match for this year was so unpredictable, honestly. But that's what really made it beautiful and made it all the way to 5-5 now. This map features, well, it's multi-skill set, obviously. There is mag tag, there is slider tag, has BPM change sections as well, so you do have some flow, some control around the middle of the map, and overall it's the greatest test to just to put your entire versatility to a question, which only the strongest players will be able to answer. So all eyes on Bahwal, all eyes on KJK from South Korea, and for China, feel that it's gonna be Lone and Crystal that are gonna be the anchor scores for this map.
I would definitely agree with you. And we're already getting off into the map. Will we see any preference for hidden? No. Everyone opting for the Noah mod. And I am so excited for this. We definitely want to keep a lookout for some breaks on the streams. We did see China finding some difficulties on the floor on the AR9. However, this is much more higher AR. So we shouldn't see the same difficulties being found, especially the fact that this is also a no mod. But again, as you mentioned, a mag tech map. And I think we might see some pretty high combos. This is definitely a lobby where we have some incredible tiebreaker players. You have KJK, Garalulu, especially for the side of South Korea. And for the side of China, of course, you have those mainstays, Crystal and Lolo235. Absolute players to definitely watch out for on this tiebreaker. Will we see any breaks coming in, though, early on? It seems like only Lolo235 is the first one to find a break. The first blood on this tiebreaker, as it's still in a bit of an easy section. No one really finding any other drops, though, but you do see enough KJK on that lower accuracy. But we'll probably play into the combo game all throughout this tiebreaker. But it's a double break from South Korea, though! And that might start to matter. Never mind, it's only a single break. Beirut was just a banter break.
Yep, and then right now we're just having some consistency test between the teams. That was a banter break indeed, so it's still 3 versus 3. No one has an advantage right here. Welcome to Rune in Cascade. This is the final map of this match. The winner will get basically guarantee a top 6 in this tournament, which is quite great. The loser, however, will have a fun time in loser's bracket, and so far it seems like both teams want to stay in that winner's bracket. Z numbers, however, is gonna find another break. That's 1FC down. My hero is also gonna falter. Not the AJK is trading that, but South Korea is gonna come out with a better combo.
Yeah, if we get into a bit more of a mechanics focused section, we see South Korea holding on pretty strong. You only saw the breaks coming in on KJK on the stream. And Lolo235 finds a break on that recovery combo. There's just Crystal holding on to any sort of combo here for the side of China. And here's a chance for South Korea to extend the lead. Choco finding a break on the recovery for South Korea as well, though. So there's only 2 combos up against one on the side of China, and the score lead isn't as big as you would imagine, especially after that break coming in from Garalulu. So Babel holding onto the Seoul FC for South Korea up against the Titan that is Crystal. Having been around for so many years, will he be able to hold China up once again, or will South Korea prevail here? We still have over half of the map to go though, getting into a bit more of a techie section. No one finding any further breaks. Some accuracy drops coming in, and Babel on the FC goes down for South Korea.
Bencher.
Oh, it's a Bancher, but that is right. A Bancher break. It is Crystal holding onto the Soul combo now in this entire lobby.
Yep, indeed, you didn't want to take your chances against Crystal. Crystal so far haven't been able to show the soul carry performance, and now that his team needs him the most, he is here, he is delivering, trying to just seal the fate for South Korea. 1.5k combo. Here we are in the lower section, the lower BPM section, but Crystal is gonna miss on that lower BPM tapping section. Right now, South Korea, they're refusing to give up. No, KJK is once again here as the biggest combo now that Crystal is out of the equation, and he knows it once again, just like on that no mod 3, no KJK. The entire world is looking at you, your entire team, your entire country just needs you to keep holding. Do you have what it takes to repeat your no mod 3 carry performance or not? The last guy is gonna answer that question. There is the build-up. After that, there's gonna be no take-backs, no second chances for South Korea nor China. This match represents the entire course of actions of this rivalry. 5-5. It's so damn close, and it is still is until the very end of this tiebreaker, and here we are.
And look at the chase coming in from the KJK, really starting to fuel the nerves. 1100 combo, slightly eclipsing what Z Numbers has to offer. And Babel finds a pretty significant miss, which does allow China to take a little bit of a score lead. But then again, Z Numbers goes down the combo, so does no KJK. It's 30,000 points in it. Lolo and Mahiro holding onto those massive combos of China, the largest combos in the lobby. No KJK just not able to hold on for long enough to bring this back to South Korea. And there are the repeated breaks in South Korea, and it just slips farther and farther out of reach. Mahiro does find a break, but it's Lolo235 to hold on to that combo for China as we get into the final 40 seconds of the map. And I think China might have just about taken this, just had enough score on the Crystal FC, and if some further breaks coming in now from South Korea, I think just further seals the deal. No KJK going down on the final combo, and after such an incredible match, an incredible tiebreaker, China steals it away and walks away into the sunset and stays in the winner's bracket after some incredible combos by both Lolo235 and Crystal. GG, well played, and what a match we just witnessed.
Yeah, Lolo has just had enough at the end of this match in the tiebreaker. Slamming down and bolting South Korea. South Korea dodged so many bullets on those 2 previous babs to make it all the way to tiebreaker, but third time was in fact not the charm for them. Not being able to get a win on the tiebreaker, which is quite unfortunate, but is how it is. Both teams are incredibly strong for this, and this is exactly what we would expect from a Seed 4 versus Seed 5 matchup. And you know the craziest part? The craziest part is there is another tiebreaker happening right now between Russia and Australia. What is this timing?
That's just insane timing. We have 2 matches in the stage going to tiebreaker, and they're just at the same time, which is so unfortunate. I don't know if any of the players are streaming the tiebreaker, but make sure you do stay tuned to find out the result of that Russia versus Australia match.
We can switch. We can switch really quickly.
We're switching to Russia versus Australia to catch just the, I think honestly the final half of the tiebreaker, and let's see who does take it.
I hope so. We need to depict this at least, and
yes,
that would be something. That would do a lot. Oh my god, I hear the sounds. I hear the sounds again. Yo, do you hear this?
Yes, I think we're at the sort of tapping section where we did see Crystal find a break on, so about 1600 coming into the map. Let's see if we can cut to the scores fairly soon. But
Yeah.
wow, it's so insane to have two tiebreakers at the exact same time. And here we go. Here's a switch
Oh,
coming.
there it
over.
is! There it is! Second tiebreaker in a row, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ruined Cascade. We're running to the back between Australia and Russian Federation right here. The lineups are quite powerful. Same for South Korea, China, and right now still some full combos going on. The lead, however, is gonna find the first break before the first KI.
Yep, you had O/Slash and Delete finding those fast breaks for both of their teams, but again, you still have 3 FCs holding strong on each team. No one taking the optional hidden, which makes quite a lot of sense. There is quite a bit of flow aim, and you don't want to risk it. The 1-3s are also really, really diabolical on hidden. And everyone holding very, very strong through this entire first section. It's still 3 FCs on each team. The Hushka finds a break on Russia though. There's 3 combos to 2, and you have that recovery on O/Slash and Garbic as well. Goes down for Russia. So only 1 FC being held now for Russia.
Oh my god, yeah, and Australia is looking very, very sharp. I believe they have better score right now in this particular round of the map than both South Korea and China had. Highly, however, never mind, that was a bencher break. I take it back. Is we're getting in the more control-y section. This is the one where Crystal did find a break. Poyuta is gonna find a break as well. But Damani and Haley are still holding on. They're holding the line like it's their last stand. And it makes sense because it's an elimination match, by the way. The loser of this one we'll have to say goodbye to. And right now, Australia is just clawing on anything they can. Those combos are the determining factors. Garabik is just gonna completely stop playing for a couple of seconds. That is not what you want to see happening inside the Russian Federation. The lead trying his absolute best. He is now beating down Haley, losing that full combo. Damani is still here, but the lead is not gonna be enough to carry Russia all the way.
And yeah, that Andy FC still being held 2/3 of the way into the map. What is this score? Russia's already smoking GG. It is not over yet. If Andy breaks, you guys are still very much in this. Keep your hopes up, Russia. But a third of the map left. Andy looks so dominant. They're still holding almost 97% accuracy. Will the nerves start getting to him? He knows at this point he is the sole combo remaining on the side of Australia. And if he breaks, Russia are straight back in this. Will we see the nerves start playing a part? Or will Australia just fully take this? Andy eclipsing that 500,000 score. What a combo we are seeing. Still holding on to that FC as we get into a bit more of a MechTech section. The lead goes down for Russia. And I think it is now completely over. Antonov goes down supporting combo. Andy breaks on the FC. It's a full reset from the entire lobby, barring the Hujka. And I think that just might spell disaster for Russia.
Yeah, the last KI is going to punish the entirety of the lobby except Poyuto. And that just means that the last Russian bastion is going to fall down. Australia in the war of attrition. In the situation where no one has solid combos. It's going to be stagnation. And Australia is going to have an upper hand in this regard. With Poyuto 600 combo. An overall accuracy advantage right here. It's going to speak volumes. Australia and Russia, huge props to both of them, but at the end there can only be one winner, and it's gonna be Australia moving forward to quarterfinals, to semifinals losers bracket, while Russia is gonna be left behind in the dust, unfortunately. Very valiant effort right here by both countries, but this is how the story gonna end in Ruined Cascade.
What a team score, by the way, by Australia. You have two players above 500k, and the almost eclipsing the 800k mark. And what a score by Australia here. That is so insane on the tiebreaker to get this high of a team score. Wow.
I believe they outperformed both South Korea and China, right?
Yep, they did. That is... Yeah. Yep. China's getting 1.7 million team score. So Australia honestly just pipping out China on that. Wow. What a match.
As a seed 13 team. That is incredible. I believe Russia also did outperform just a bit. It was also 1.7 million. So
yeah,
2 very strong showings from C12 and C13 countries, by the way. Not even top seeded teams, but what a performance right here.
Yeah, both matchups that were only 1 seed apart, both of them going straight down to tiebreaker. And what incredible matches they seem to have been. just a little bit of rundown on this Australia-Russia match. You had the hidden 1 being decided by 25,000 points. You had the hidden 3 being decided by 120,000 points. So you did have some very close maps. The double time 1 also by 130,000 points. So a very close match. Unfortunately not streamed, but we did at least catch that tiebreaker. And what just incredible back-to-back matches we had here.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are more to come today as well, Felicia. There is another one at 15 UTC between Ukraine and I believe Indonesia, and it's going to be followed by another 15:30 UTC match, which is going to be Germany versus Singapore, and then to end it all off, there is France versus Chile playing at 18 UTC. So 3 more matches, 3 more bangers, and make sure you are gonna be there. In the meantime, thank you so much to all of our sponsors. We are holding out a giveaway down below. If you scroll down just a bit, there is a giveaway image. You can press on it and you have a chance of winning some free stuff, which is always good. So thank you so much, Slider Pulse and KGM Studio for that. And there's also UBM Entertainment, who are composing some great songs for the tournament, as well as the design and videos for them. So huge shout outs. But without further ado, Felicia, I'm a bit tired, not gonna lie, especially after casting 2 tiebreakers in a row. So I think we should be taking our leave soon.
Yeah, I think so as well. Very, very great match to cast, so it was always an honor casting alongside you, Philoxen, and yeah, I hope everyone did enjoy, and just again, remind to check out our sponsors, and yeah, I think that is it then. Thank you very much everyone for watching, and we will see you in about 23 minutes for our next matches.